Hey everybody, welcome back to the Badgerland Birding Podcast, bringing you birding news and stories from the Badger State and beyond. Today we're with Zach Matchinski, who's a volunteer biological technician at
Way
Midway
beyond.
Atoll. Yeah, he's way far away from the continental United States right now. So we're gonna quickly, after Zach introduces himself, show you where that is because it's pretty far away. It's a pretty cool spot.
It's actually startling that it exists.
Yeah. So how you doing, Zach?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm Zach Matchinski, and I'm a recent college graduate. In May of 2022, I graduated from Lake Superior State University in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. And pretty much ever since then, I've just been doing some different seasonal bird jobs around the country. I've done some stuff with piping I started out doing piping plovers in Michigan for a couple summers, and then after I graduated, headed out and did piping plover work in North Dakota, and then down to southern Utah for that fall. I did the season of songbird banding down there, and then from there, because I took a birding trip through southern Arizona, and then went down to Florida for 8 months last year. And the big thing down there, it was just kind of I was working at a research reserve, and basically I was just helping out their avian biologists with everything. So it was like shorebirds, seabirds, wading birds, some public education stuff, leading bird walks, and just anything bird related they were doing down there. And then after I was done there, last fall, I headed up to central Wisconsin in Stevens Point, and I was doing some owl banding
Ooh, the
for the
Sawwets.
fall. And then, yeah, banding the sawwets over there.
That's fun.
And then headed back to Florida again this past winter. And now I am a long ways from there out at Midway.
Yeah, so let's pull up that map real quick, because Midway Atoll is basically in the center of
Mhm.
the US and Asia there.
The Pacific
So
Yeah, it's
Ocean.
about midway in between.
Ah, it all makes sense now.
yeah, so you're actually like pretty close to Hawaii then, kind of. How's it?
Yeah, so to get here, we flew down to Honolulu, and then they had a plane fly us out from there. And it's right around 1,400 miles from Honolulu.
Have you been to Hawaii before?
No, that was my first time ever going
Were you
there.
kind of like, can I just stay here for like a week before we go?
So I think I would have been a lot more like that if I didn't know that I was going to Midway in a couple days.
hmm
But yeah, Midway kind of overshadowed Hawaii a little bit.
So I have two questions. One is
Okay.
what is exactly what you would call your career title? Like, is it, avian biologist or field technician? Kind of like what do you see your career like position as? And then how beautiful is Midway exactly? Like, what does it look like? What's the vibe there?
So my position, I think like you said, the like volunteer field technician is pretty much as good as it gets because we do everything. Like we do a lot of stuff with invasive species out here. We do work with the green sea turtles, Hawaiian monk seals, and then obviously they have all the albatrosses and stuff out here in the lay sand ducks we've been working with. So we really do everything. So just kind of like a field technician, I think would sum it up quite well.
So it's not just birds then.
No, not at
That's
all.
cool.
We do birds a couple times, like so usually we have like each day is split up into the morning, the afternoon. So we have like basically 10 different like sections of the week. And I think birds usually fill up like two, three of those sections out of 10. So there's a lot of stuff besides birds that we do. I think the invasive species we actually do more than birds typically.
What's the main invasive species that you're trying to remove?
The house.
Oh
Um,
man.
I'm just kidding.
so we have a list of probably about 20 of them that we're kind of focusing on. But the number one is called Verbicina. And basically, even just like 10 years ago, if you look at pictures of Midway, it's just going to be like fields of tall yellow flowers, which at that time was all Verbicina. And the biggest problem with that is it grows very, very thick. So, and then we have over 1 million albatrosses nesting here every year.
Whoa.
And because it grows up so thick, and there wasn't really a whole lot of places for them to have their nest outside of the verbicina, so they had to nest in the middle of it. And because it's so thick, it just gets really hot. And so a lot of the chicks and the adults too that are even just like incubating the nest, they sometimes just die from the heat. And another big thing is once the chicks are big enough, they start wandering around a lot, and the adults just can't find them anymore
Oh, wow.
because there's so much verbicina.
Dang, that's
Yeah, that's a
wild.
lot of weird unintended consequences.
How did that get on the
Mhm.
island?
No, I don't think anybody really knows. It just got here one time and then just exploded.
Okay. How developed is Midway? Like, are there people that live there? Is it pretty much just you guys there? Can you see from end to end?
So we definitely can't see from end to end of it. I think it's probably a couple miles long, at least the main island, because there's Sand Island, which is kind of where our main like headquarters is. That's kind of where everything takes place. And then there's also Eastern Island, which is a separate one. We go over there once or twice a week for stuff. But Sand Island, I think, is a couple miles long, so we can't really see that far. And there's a lot of like ironwood trees and whatnot in the way. And then in terms of like the population, there's right around 40 to 50 full-time residents. I think there's about 10 or so with the Fish and Wildlife Service because it's a national wildlife refuge out here. So 10 or so scientists, and then the rest of them are all from Thailand. And there's a company, it's called Chugach, that kind of basically they run everything besides the science. So like basically are like water plant, electricity. They have like mechanics and electricians and carpenters, and they have like a team of people that cooks for us and everything and cleaning.
Wow,
So
fancy.
basically, they take care of everything that is not the science.
That's pretty cool. Are the accommodations pretty nice? Are you living in a pretty good spot, or is it kind of like more
Are
camping-esque?
you camping on the rocks?
Yeah.
We are like the farthest thing from camping out here,
Okay.
which is absolutely not what I expected, but I love it. Yeah, like our house. There's only three of us living there, and our house is like huge and also quite nice. Like the food here is probably the best food I've ever had in my life. Like it is so much better than I was ever expecting it was gonna
That's pretty awesome. So what you're trying to tell us is you're not coming back.
Yeah.
be. That's the goal. That's the goal.
So what kind of bird life have you seen out there? Because I imagine it's a pretty wild community of things.
So there are a lot of different species, but there's not a whole lot of species diversity overall. So I think I've been here for just under 3 months now, and I think I have somewhere around 32 or 33 species that I've seen is all. But yeah, but just seabirds everywhere. The Laysan albatrosses, I think peak season, like February, so we had 498,000 nests this year.
Wow.
And that's not and also there's a lot of like younger birds that aren't quite to breeding age yet. And also some of them that just like couldn't really find a partner that were hanging out here.
Ouch.
So if I had to guess, it could be like 1.5 million or so adults peak
Wow.
season.
It's pretty fantastic.
And then there's the black-footed albatross, are also one of the big nesters here. I think they had 28,000 nests of them. So a little over 50 to 70,000 birds, somewhere in that range. And then some of the other big ones, the great frigate birds, red-tailed tropic birds, the white terns, and right now it's getting to the point where their chicks are just taking over every tree on the island, and it's like the most wonderful thing ever.
I'm gonna Google what those look like real quick.
Yeah, like are there any non-pelagic species out there? Like anything that just hangs out on the island and just kind of like finches or
So
anything?
basically, besides all of the seabirds, really all there's There's obviously some of the shorebirds out here, like the Pacific golden plover, bristlethied curlew, and ruddy turnstone are the main three. And then there's some wandering tattler, gray-tailed tattler. And then there's a population of island canaries out here that just kind of is specific to this island, and also a population of common myna. So just a couple songbirds that just made it out on boats or whatnot.
Is the island canary countable, or is it considered a,
I'm
just a
pretty sure it's
non-native thing?
countable. I think it is.
That's interesting. Ryan pulled up a picture of the terns, and they look really cool.
Did you pull up a picture of the chicks though?
I did not know.
Because you definitely should.
Well, let's do it on here so other people can see too.
Yeah, you need to see a picture of the chicks.
We're back to the atoll. So is your primary goal out there then as a technician preserving habitat? Because you said there was the eradication of the non-native species, or is it more gathering information?
Dude, look at these things.
Oh, wow. The one with its wings out like that?
Yeah, there are so for Ryan's question, I think a lot of it is more kind of like habitat management oriented, for the most part, because they have kind of they have good solid numbers for like the species and everything and what they can typically expect and whatnot. So mostly it's just the habitat management to try to keep it up at those numbers that they're at right now.
Okay, gotcha. Is there any possibility of making new discoveries out there with it being such a remote place?
I mean, I would say it's unlikely, but definitely not impossible.
Are there often vagrant species that show up? Like one random thing that pops up on
Actually, if you can see the little board right above my shoulder here is our vagrant species board that we have in the office. And every now and then we get something like at the beginning of June, I got a black-headed gull.
Oh no.
The very first day that we landed out here, there was a gray heron.
Hmm.
And then it's actually been like a really slow. It was a really slow migration year here. Like there wasn't really any vagrants at all, but there definitely can be at times. I know just some of them off the top of my head. There was like bicol teal a few years ago. There was a while. There was I want to say it was like 2020 or so. There was far eastern curlew hanging out for 3 or 4 months. And then take a look at the board, see if there's anything interesting. There was a white wagtail for a few months back in December, and obviously I had to leave like 2 weeks before I got here. But yeah,
this is what it looks like, Zach. You have like one airstrip and then
yeah. So this
wow, it's so beautiful.
The big island there is when I was talking about Sand Island, kind of where everything takes place. And then you can see the disconnected is Eastern Island, and then you have like the fringing reef all around everything.
Is the snorkeling just incredible there?
So from what I've heard, yes, but we haven't actually gone out yet.
Okay.
We definitely will at some point, but we haven't yet. But even just from shore, just like swimming around a bit, it is very, very cool. So I can't even imagine what it is going to be like out at the farther reef areas.
Yeah. So what else do you do for fun on the island when you're not working?
So basically me and then the two other volunteers here and then a few other staff, we have a tradition where every single day when we finish working, we immediately run back to the house, change, and go jump in the ocean, swim for probably an hour or so. And then so unfortunately, I can't anymore. But for the first half of when I was here, I was out taking a lot of pictures of everything every now and then.
Oh no, what happened?
And there was a tragic accident where not this past week, but 2 weeks ago when we were on Eastern Island. So to get the full backstory, there's been a Nazca booby that's been hanging out on Eastern Island, usually like July and August for the past 3 or 4 years. And then 2 weeks ago, when we were on Eastern Island, there was our supervisory biologist here. He's like huge into birds, and he was over on Eastern with us. And he said there was the Nazca booby was hanging out at the spot where it always is, and it's like the earliest it's ever been here before. So just letting us know that it was there. And it was almost lunchtime, so I figured I would just like have a finish up what we were doing, have a quick lunch, and then go over and because I had my camera with me over there, and take my camera and go try to get some photos of it. And so I had a quick lunch, and then I go to pull my camera out of my backpack, and I pull out 2/3 of my camera lens,
Oh no.
just snapped in half.
Oh.
What kind of lens and what kind of camera?
So the camera is Canon R10,
Okay.
and then the lens, it's the Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just pull out 2/3 of the lens, and you can see like the wiring and stuff hanging out. So obviously, it's not supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
And I tried for a little bit to see if it fit back together somehow. And then by the time I decided I was just going to go try to see the booby and just head back, I'd taken too long trying to get it back together. So I never actually got to see the Nazca booby either because it took too long trying to get my camera back together.
And I'm assuming you can't like Amazon one to you, right?
So, I mean, technically I could. There are we do have flights that come out here every other week, just like bringing supplies and whatnot. So I probably could have one in about a month, but because I'm leaving in like 2 months, I think I'm probably just gonna wait until after, and then just look into it some more and see if I do want to stick with this one or whatnot, or go with a different one and just kind of figure it out then.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a bummer though.
Yeah.
Dang.
But the
You
thing
look
is,
visibly sad
I
for
mean,
him.
I feel his pain.
yeah, but I did get pictures of basically everything I wanted to while I was out here, at
That's
least.
good. You know, at
So,
least it
yeah.
wasn't like the body fell in the ocean and your SD card
Mhm.
like was gone or something.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that only happens if you've seen ivory-billed woodpecker.
Yeah, it's in the swamp somewhere.
Yeah, I had great photos of
Gray
it,
hawk
man.
spotted on Midway Atoll. Oh, wait, I lost the SD card.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be hilarious and awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Well, so originally we were going to talk on the podcast about getting into the birding field out of college, but then, all the
Mhm.
cool Midway stuff came up. So do you want to touch a little
Yeah.
bit about, getting into the field after you graduate? Like, what was your degree in? How have you found it so far?
And we know a lot of young birders that aren't even in, college yet that I think probably would be interested in going toward that field. So if you just want to
Mhm.
share any advice you have for them in general, I'm sure they would appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, sure. So my degree, I graduated with a double major in wildlife management and conservation biology with a minor in GIS. And the funny thing is, when I was first going to college, I was going for the wildlife management and whatnot, but I was not really interested in birds at all. I was much more of a mammal person early on, just because growing up in the Upper Peninsula, I was doing a lot of like deer hunting and whatnot. That was a big thing for us. So that's kind of like the direction I was kind of wanting to go, was working with the bigger mammals like that.
What's your favorite mammal?
The favorite mammal, I would go, I think bighorn sheep probably. But back to what we were going on. So it was during my sophomore year of college, the spring semester. I had my like internship lined up. I was going to be like working with deer out in Vermont, and then that was February of 2020, and then the whole pandemic hit. So that ended
Pandemic
up getting
changes a man.
canceled.
Turns
Yeah,
into
so
a
that ended up
bird.
getting canceled. And I was taking an ornithology class at the time, and I was definitely enjoying it and starting to get like a little bit more into birds. But I knew the professor pretty well from previous classes. So I was talking to him about it for a while, and he was saying that he was hiring people to monitor piping plovers along Lake Michigan and Lake Superior. And I thought about it, and it's like, you know what, I might as well apply. It's a job for the summer, like related to the wildlife field. Why not go for it? So I applied and ended up getting it, and then just like loved every minute of working with them. and we were also living on a wildlife refuge the whole time. So like every night for our entertainment, we'd like get back from work and then we'd make something to eat and then just go watch birds in the refuge for a while. And then what kind of really got me into the path of birds is after that, it was the day before I was heading back to college to start my junior year. I was sitting out on the porch with my dad, my mom and dad, and my dad saw a bird flying around they didn't really recognize. Then I took a look at it and didn't really recognize it either. So I made sure to get some looks. And I was looking for a field guide. And it turns out it was the 12th ever state record of a swallow-tailed kite in Michigan flying 50 feet over our front yard.
Wow, that's an awesome yard bird.
And from that point on, like there was no turning back.
Was it like the rarity of it, or was it just the whole moment altogether? Like what
And
did it
also,
for
it's
you?
just such a cool bird too.
It
It
is,
is.
yeah, it is a cool
We have
bird.
a video about it and it's titled, "Is this the coolest bird on the planet?" I think. So we
I
agree.
mean, I might have to say yes.
It could be. Yeah, it very well could be the coolest bird on the
Hmm.
planet.
Yeah, but it was really cool just watching it like not flapping its wings a single time and just like goes 100 feet straight up in the air.
There was that quote, I forget who it's by, but it was about spark birds, and wasn't it the scarlet tanager that somebody said that when you see one, it just makes you stop and say, "What is that thing?" Something along those lines.
Yeah, like there's
Yeah,
some birds
yeah.
that even, well, when we had the flamingo show up in on Lake Michigan, that
Hmm.
attracted everyone because they just, even people walking their dog, they're like, hey, flamingos, like what are
What's
those
that
doing
big pink
here?
thing?
Yeah, it's like just catches
Hmm.
everybody's attention.
Yeah.
So have you
Yeah.
found the transition from graduating to doing the stuff in the field?
So for me, I didn't really have a whole lot of choice but to just accept it because I just got straight into it. Like basically, I didn't even go to my college graduation because it was on a Saturday and I had to be at work in North Dakota on that following Monday.
Hmm.
So I just didn't even really have a chance to think about it. I just had to go and just start working out there. But overall, I have loved every second of it so far. And it is one of the best choices that I've ever made doing the seasonal work for a few years.
Yeah. Are you wanting to get a full-time position? Do you like doing the seasonal things? Because for me, like I was doing stuff in the fisheries world for a while, and the seasonal jobs are cool because you get to jump between them, but normally they don't give you like benefits. And then,
Mhm.
people do miss having the stability. So are you looking for something full-time, or is the seasonal stuff really just like right up your alley?
So, kind of where I'm at right now is if the right full-time job opens up, like, yeah, I'll absolutely go for it. But also, if I don't see anything that I really, really like, I am perfectly fine with sticking with the seasonal for another little while. And also, another thing is one thing with the seasonal jobs is basically they can take you like wherever you want to go, they can take you there.
Hmm.
So, right now, I've been to quite a few places, but like I've never been to the Pacific Northwest yet. And that's kind of one thing that I still really want to do. Like if I could get like another one of them up in like Oregon or Washington or just somewhere in that area.
Spotted owl surveys.
Also, I know they have the snowy plovers out there in the summer, and
Hmm.
I've definitely I pr- I actually had an interview for one of the snowy plover jobs out there the day after Midway sent me the offer letter.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's like, well, yeah, it sounds really cool, but also I just got an offer to go to Midway, and like the person that I was talking to about it are like, yes, please go to Midway. It is better than
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yeah. One thing that our friend told us about that sounded like a unique opportunity is they do kakapo field work in New Zealand, I think, right?
Yeah, so it's something where you can go be like a monitor out there. I looked into it, but they weren't like accepting people at the moment. But I think you're out
Mhm.
there for like 6 months or
Was
something,
it
just
that long?
Yeah.
monitor. It was a while monitoring those birds and stuff.
So that'd be a cool experience that
Yeah.
take you somewhere unique.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing is I've never traveled internationally before, like in my life. So that's another thing that will be very cool
So
at
is a
some point.
toll technically still US?
So it's U.S. The title is the United States Minor Outlying Islands. So it's kind of like a U.S. territory, basically,
Okay. So you
but
didn't need a
not fully
passport or
incorporated.
anything. You didn't need a passport or anything to go there?
So in the information that they sent us, it said we did, but I don't think we actually did.
Okay,
We didn't use
gotcha.
it getting out. I didn't use it at all getting out
That's how they get you. You use it to get back.
I
Yeah.
don't have it. I can't
That's how
go.
they have volunteers that stay there for a long time.
It's true. True. Yeah.
You know what would be the perfect thing for you? Kirtland's Warbler surveys.
It would. That would be very nice.
I think it was before we started that Zach was mentioning that's his nemesis bird, even though like he lives fairly close to it.
Hmm. Yeah, we have a colony nesting about 10 miles from my house, and I've tried several times and just never seen him before.
Did you see how he stared off in the distance? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You had to bring it up again, didn't
I did, yeah. This is the kind of stuff we have to talk about. And that way when you finally get one, think how sweet it'll be. And you'll come back on
you?
and be like,
I
let me tell
know.
you
I
about my
know.
Kirtland's Warbler experience.
And now, and now that you said that, it's going to be at a time where it's like I'm just in the middle of doing something important, and it's like, oh wait, there's a Kirtland's Warblers here, Kirtland's Warbler here. Oh yeah, there it is. I need to get back to this.
It'll somehow be at Midway.
Yeah. Right after you leave, it'll be like first Kirtland's Warbler ever at Midway.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't complain.
Little buddy's way off course.
Yeah. So I don't want to bring up any bad memories, but how'd you like the Sigma 150 to 600? That's a lens I've never tested before, but it's one of the ones where it's more affordable than some of the other main, like, 200 to 600s or like,
Mhm.
more big brand name ones. What'd you think of it?
Like I absolutely loved everything about it, and like I mean, I don't know how much better the other ones would be, but I really don't know how it could be all that much better than this one that I had.
Until it.
Don't say it.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
know what
we're just
happened.
gonna leave it at that.
Well, I'm just thinking about like it could be a really good lens, but if it has, I'm wondering if it was just yours or if it was like you didn't you
It
didn't do
definitely
anything
seems like
weird
it
to it, did
was,
you? You didn't
yeah, it
like
definitely seems like it was some kind of a manufacturing problem because like you definitely aren't supposed to see the like wiring
right?
inside
Yeah,
of the lens.
yeah. Is it what did any chance it's under warranty?
So because I bought this one used, no.
Mm.
Gotcha. Maybe the guy before it was
He
like,
sabotaged
yeah,
it.
like hacksaw on half of it. Next guy gets this, it's just gonna come apart.
That's
I mean,
wild.
it's that lens has been through a lot in a year and a half so far.
So what is the bird that you want to see next other than Kirtland's Warbler? What's your big target species?
I mean, obviously, if I have a chance to see the Nazca Booby out here, that'd be very cool. But yeah, I don't really have specific birds that I want. I have kind of have like specific places that I want to go. Which right now is definitely the Pacific Northwest. And if I did have to choose one, I'd probably say varied thrush.
The cool one.
Hmm. Yeah, that'd probably be what I'd be going for as my
Pacific
top
Northwest.
target.
Yeah, varied thrush is a very cool one. We do ask this with pretty much everyone. I get the vibe you've never had a Sasquatch encounter, but have you?
Well, we like to know, have you ever experienced anything weird out in the field, whether it be like paranormal or
Sketchy.
even not in the field, just, in life.
I mean, nothing really comes to mind off the top of my head. No, it's been pretty normal field work. Yeah,
Until you get
but
to the
yeah, I can't
Pacific
really think of
Northwest.
anything in
How
particular.
crazy would it have been if he's like, you can't tell anyone, but there's actually a Sasquatch colony at Midway
Oh.
that takes care of the albatrosses and pulls the
What do you
invasive
mean by
weeds.
takes care of? Like,
Hmm.
That'd be something. But yeah, it's always just interesting to hear stories, if people run into like any possible sketchy like violent activity or paranormal, well, like drug dealers or
Like
whatever.
messing up someone's camera, sabotage.
But any kind of stuff like that, because you can run into some sketchy things out there.
Here's an interesting question. Is there anything to actually eat on the island? So stuff that grows there. It didn't look like it was that forested. Is there any fruit?
Albatross.
Well, yeah, I know you do that, but
So the coconuts are definitely a big thing.
Ooh,
I didn't even really
There's
think
a
about
lot
that, but
of
that makes
several
sense.
coconut trees that we have taken full advantage of so far.
that's pretty cool.
And then also we have like 2 or 3 different gardens that we grow, and basically in a majority of the produce that we use comes from the gardens that we grow in Midway.
Nice.
So like hydroponic gardens.
Is there any fresh water on there? Are there any springs, or do you have to get it all
So we have
desalinated?
there's just one big catchment basin that we use. And then all of it gets from there, and then there's like the whole water plant that it goes through and then into the big storage tanks.
That's crazy. So if you ever, for some reason, had a drought, you might be in a little bit of trouble.
Like right now, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
Yeah, so we are actually in a pretty bit decent drought right now, which I mean we're still perfectly fine because I think we have, so there's 3 tanks, and I want to I don't even know how many gallons each one is. It's like I don't know if it's like 400,000 gallons a
Oh,
piece or
wow.
something like that. But yeah, but we have plenty for now, but we definitely are in a bit of a drought right now.
Has it pretty much just been accumulating over time? During the rainy seasons, they just, fill them all up and then they'll last the year pretty much if worst case scenario.
Yeah, pretty much. They usually just they save it up throughout the whole rainy season, and then I mean they usually don't go through everything, so it just kind of builds up a little bit over time.
And I'm assuming that Midway isn't a place that anyone from just the public can go, right? I'm assuming you need to be there for research purposes. It's not a place that any tourist could go to.
So I want up until 2017, it actually was like open to like public visitors, but ever since then, no, it's completely closed off for like research purposes.
gotcha. I feel like that'd be hard to get to as an individual anyways.
Probably have to charter a private plane, I would imagine.
Or a private boat.
Mhm.
A private, maybe from Hawaii.
Maybe,
I don't
maybe. I don't
know.
even know.
Looking
Yeah.
out of the map, it looked like it was just in the blue. What other kind of animals do they have out there? Are there any mammals living on the island?
There's really, I mean, there's like, I think mice are definitely a big problem out here. But other than that, there's really, that's really about it we have for mammals.
There's no feral cats, right?
No.
That's good.
Ah,
I'm assuming the mice probably are feral though,
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
because I mean
And they
there's islands and stuff
actually,
that don't have
yeah.
any mammals, and that's where birds have been hit hard. I think the Guam kingfisher was one that the snake that got imported to Guam is the reason that it started dying out because they don't have any natural defenses against those sorts of predators.
Yeah. But yeah, the mice out here, they definitely are a bit of a problem. We actually just had like a year and a half long like mouse eradication project that ended, I think, like in February or something. And which the goal was to just like completely remove mice from the island here. But unfortunately, nature had other ideas and decided to have a very wet summer last year. So the mice just had food everywhere, and they didn't have to go to like the bait that we had for them. So yeah, that did not really work at all.
All right, so the mice still thriving
Yeah,
on
the mice are
Yeah,
still
yeah.
everywhere out here.
That's why you bring in the cats.
Nah,
Yeah,
nah,
the
no,
mice.
don't even, don't even. Uh, yeah. Um, so with your work, kind of across the US, how's your life list looking?
Actually, the black-headed gull that I mentioned was Lifebird number 500.
Oh, nice.
Hey.
Yeah, so that was it was a pretty cool one to get for it too.
Yeah, the sweet bird. That's still one that we need.
But we have very thrush.
West, again, Kirtland Warbler, but
And
we're not
Kirtland's
gonna say
warbler,
anything.
but none of us have
Yeah, with the
Nazca
black-headed
Booby.
gull there, it was one of those things where it was just like I was in the perfect place at the perfect time because one of the things we do out here is the just like checking all the water sources for like we get counts of all the lace end ducks out there, and then also checking for like sick or dead ducks because botulism is a big problem around here in the summer. And so I was just out checking one of the sources, one of the water sources here, and I just pulled up there and then looked out and it's like, oh, and then I just thought I saw a gull out there, which any gull out here would be something really cool. And I got to see it for like 10 seconds and then it took off, it just flew straight away from me and nobody ever saw it. Nobody in the island ever saw it again. So yeah, it was just the right place, right time, and a pretty cool bird for number 500.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Although once it gets lumped and split and everything, who knows what number it'll
Yeah, who
actually be.
knows? Who knows?
Sweet. So which aside from Midway, what's been your favorite place that you've been to?
I really, really like. I mean, I've definitely like enjoyed all of them, but I think my favorite one has probably been where I was working in Southern Florida.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty cool place. Did you
Mhm.
go to Belts when you were in Stevens Point?
I
What's
did
that?
not.
The ice cream place.
Oh, okay.
I toured
Yeah,
there because
I
I was
didn't really.
contemplating going
Yeah,
there. That was
I
the big
didn't
selling
have
point.
a whole lot of it. I didn't really have much of a chance to do a whole lot in Stevens Point, mainly because we were owl banding. So typically, I opened we were owl banding in mist nets. So I opened the mist nets at about 7 p.m. and then I closed them up like 6 a.m. every morning. And then I just slept for a while after that. And then I woke up at like 1 and like I had a few hours to do stuff, and then it's like, oh, and it was every single day we did this. So I'd wake up at like 1, and then like have a few hours to do stuff, and it's like, okay, we need to go get ready to open the nets again tonight. So yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of a chance to see around the area much.
So circling back to talking about careers in birds and birding and stuff like that, what would your dream job be? What would be, the thing that if somebody offered it to you, you would say, yes, I'm doing that and not going around doing the seasonal stuff anymore?
So I definitely want to do something with I definitely want to do something with shorebirds and seabirds. So I think ideally there would be some kind of like seabird biologist in the Pacific Northwest would be kind of like an ideal scenario for me.
And then I think I asked it earlier, but I kind of want to get like a firm answer on it. What advice would you give people that are wanting to get into the field?
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of several things that I have. So for one of them, for students who are in college, just build up as much experience as you possibly can in college. Like, even if it's not bird related, even if it's just like working in a lab somewhere doing something, like, still just try to get experience with that. It's still experience doing science. And the most important thing, it's still like building connections that could lead to something later on. And then another thing that's kind of hard for a lot of people is early on, you are going to hear no a lot. And my first summer out of college, I probably applied to 40 or 50 different jobs and I got one interview. And it just happens that with that one interview, I ended up getting the job, but still
Hey,
one
one for
interview
one
out of
though,
like 40 or
interview to
50
job
applications.
conversion.
What was that?
1-to-1 interview to job conversion, 100% success rate.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. And then another thing for people is always try to apply as early as you can because a lot of the jobs will, if they find the right people, they will close before the like actual end date of it. Because like the people doing the hiring, if they don't have to read through 100 different resumes and cover letters to find very qualified people in the first like 15 or 20, odds are they're probably not going to read through 100 or so if they have those people already. And then another thing that I really didn't know before, but is like you really need to know your birds around the country. It helps a lot. Like not just knowing like of them, not just kind of like you think you can identify them, but like really knowing them around the country. And like a good example is when I was down in southern Florida, both winters I spent down there, we sometimes came up to a beach that had 3,000 plus wintering shorebirds on it. And we would have to get our spotting scopes and individually count every individual of each species. So we would need to separate out like 874 Dunlin and 452 Western sandpipers and 19 least sandpipers mixed in with them. And they all look so similar that you really need to know them quite, like really knowing them quite well can be a big help.
Do you have advice for Shorebird ID? Because I know that that's something a lot of people struggle with, and they look different seasons, and they can have their heads tucked in, and if they're solo, it's harder. So, what are your top like Shorebird ID tips?
Don't do it.
Yeah. So really, you just need to spend time around them in order to actually see like stuff like sandpipers, especially. You're looking at things like how long are the wings in comparison of the tail, which from pictures you can't even really tell what is the wing and what is the tail. Like you just need to be out there looking at them. But I know shorebirds in particular, just like but kind of a lot of times it's more of like a gut feeling at first rather than anything else. Like just you've looked at them so much that just instinctually you're thinking, oh, this looks like whatever species. And then it can kind of go through, well, like, so how big is it compared to the other birds in the area? Or like what shape is it? Is it like more round or is it more elongated? Leg color can be a big one, especially for separating sandpipers, like the green versus black versus yellow legs. And then kind of like the bill, and then just kind of like the length of the bill can kind of give you an idea where some of your bigger, I mean, obviously the bigger shorebirds are usually going to have the like longer bills, and then the smaller ones, the shorter bills, but there can be a couple in between. And like just looking at, is the bill straight or is the bill curved a little bit, like decurved downwards, and just a lot of different things, just like these small little details to look through. And usually if you can put 3 or 4 of these details together, it can typically lead to something. And another big thing is also just watching behaviors. So like there are certain shorebirds where you see them doing like sanderlings, for example, like like one of the things they always do is they're always like running with the waves. When the waves come up, they run away. When the waves go down, they're running back to it. So just simple things like that, you can identify a sanderling. You can like 100% identify a sanderling from 100 yards away if you can see it doing that typically. So yeah, it's just a lot of very small things kind of like combined into one. And even if you get all of these things checked off, you can still be wrong sometimes because it's shorebirds. It's just going to happen. But they can just give you a much better idea of at least like what group of birds it is in. Like maybe, okay, this one here is one of the dowitchers, or this one here is probably either one of the western or semi-palmated sandpipers, or this one here, it's one of the plover species.
All right, your life on the line. Would you rather have to identify gulls, shorebirds, or flycatchers?
Am I able to hear the flycatchers?
No.
Okay, definitely not them. So I think I think I would probably go with shorebirds just because that's what I have a lot of experience with.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
I was short.
no, going back to that. Is it
Oh,
winter plumage gulls or breeding plumage?
Fall plumage.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, shorebirds. I'll go with shorebirds.
That's yeah, I gotcha. I think with shorebirds for me, my advice to beginners is like learn the easy ones first. You know, like know
Mhm.
your American habitat. You
Mhm.
know, start with the ones that are pretty
Well, I was gonna
distinctive
say,
and
kind
that
of
work
learn them
down.
like one at a time. So, like, learn what ID feature is gonna help you figure out what a Dunlin is, and then every time you see something and you see that black chest during the breeding season, you're like, "Yeah, Dunlin." Don't have to think about that anymore. And I think once you kind of learn what it is about each one individually and have that experience with them, then you get the wide array once you've done it enough.
I feel like the out of context ones are
That's
tough.
what I was
You know, I feel
thinking.
like I wasn't expecting to see,
Sander laying on the
yeah,
mud flat.
yeah, like weird stuff like that. But yeah, shorebirds are tough, so I feel like knowing them is a big asset, especially if you are going to do stuff in the Pacific Northwest with shorebs,
You
you
want to
know.
be really popular in your friend group of birders. Be the shorebird identification guy. Be the one that can pick out the long-billed versus the short-billed dowager.
Yeah, probably don't be the guy that fakes knowing the flycatchers though.
Mm.
All right,
Yeah, I'm
Zach,
definitely
anything?
not taking them.
Yeah, anything else that you wanted to add about Midway or your experiences with your work out in the field?
Yeah, I got a few more things if you want, if we got time for it.
Yeah, hit us.
Yeah, but just kind of a few more things that I've just kind of learned along the way, that just some helpful things. For one, like just because with this type of, especially in the beginning, like just you need to be willing to move every few months because it's just something you have to do because there's just not really the jobs in the same place. It's really hard to find them where you can just stay in one spot. So odds are you're gonna be moving all the time. Like for me, I went through and added up everything, and when I before I headed out to Midway, I added up kind of all the miles I had driven between the places I'd been, and in a little under 2 years, not including anything that is not like perfectly straight from one job to the next, it was right around 10,700 miles of driving that I've done between all of the field sites.
That's a lot.
And then another thing, you're gonna need to be willing to try and learn new things because like there's no job is really gonna be perfect. They're all gonna have things that you might not be the most comfortable with right now, or just like something you haven't done before. But if you are willing to try new things and learn how to do new things, it can be very helpful in just get just really helpful in getting more jobs in the end. And for me, at least for me, I think the number one thing to do, or like the best thing you can do, is just having a strong network of connections. Because not only are they like really good references for jobs that you apply for, but also like they can, if they see a job, if they see a job they think you might be interested in, it's just somebody else looking out that could maybe find something that you might end up doing. And like my even like Midway out here, there's like I said, there's like 10 people working here with the Fish and Wildlife Service. And it just happens that my boss down in Florida has actually worked with one of them for a while before and knew her decently well. And also another one of her really good friends was just out on Midway here for like a year or so with the Mouse Eradication Project. So just because I had that group of connections, like she already knew both of them and knew me pretty well. So it's just definitely helped me along a little bit with it.
Yeah, I do feel like the world of biology is pretty connected. You know, like someone that probably knows someone who your connections
Hmm.
between people that might seem far away are probably closer than you think. And
Yeah.
with you talking about learning the shorebirds and stuff, and people looking for jobs, they'd be like, "Oh, Zach was really good with shorebirds. He'd be great for this position."
I like how it
So
all comes back to
it all comes back to learning your shorebirds. That's the most important thing
Ask
that you
any
need to do.
CEO what the most
If you get
important thing they
anything
did
out of
was.
this, you got to know your shorebirds.
You gotta know your shorebirds.
Did it help to know markets at all? No. Shorebirds.
Those Sanderlings, they're up and down, just like the stock market. You just gotta follow the
They
wave.
ebb and flow. You got to ride the wave. Love it. Don't go in a mud flat.
That don't go in the mud flat. Yeah. Well, cool, Zach. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. One more time, the 150 to 600. Rest in peace. Hopefully a new one sometime soon. But we hope everything goes good.
I will get one at some point soon. It's just a matter of when.
That's the spirit.
Well, hope everything goes well at Midway, and thanks everyone for watching this episode of the Badgerland Birding Podcast.